Every single day, we are surrounded by two forces, one that pulls us down into fear, doubt, and negativity, and one that lifts us up into courage, faith, and happiness. The truth is, most people live in the shadow of their negative thoughts without realizing those thoughts are not facts, they are simply habits of the mind. And the good news, habits can be changed. The first step to eliminating negativity is awareness. You must catch yourself in the moment when your mind says, "I can't, I'm not enough," or "this will never work." Don't fight the thought, just notice it, because the second you notice it, you take back control. Awareness gives you power, then you shift your focus. Whatever you focus on, you feel. If you dwell on what's missing, you'll feel empty. If you focus on what you have, you'll feel abundance. Right now, think of one thing in your life you're grateful for: a relationship, your health, the opportunity to learn. That single shift in focus changes your emotional state instantly. But it's not just in the mind, your body is the fastest way to transform your mood. If you're slouched over, shallow breathing, you'll naturally feel heavy. But the moment you stand tall, breathe deeply, move with energy, you ignite a new state of being. Your physiology changes your psychology. Awareness creates control, and this single principle is the foundation of transforming the way you think and feel. Think about it. You cannot change what you don't acknowledge. Most people go through life operating on autopilot, not even realizing the thoughts that are shaping their emotions, their decisions, and ultimately their destiny. When a negative thought comes in, "I'm not good enough, I always fail. Things never work out for me," if you aren't aware, that thought takes root. It grows into a belief, and beliefs drive behavior. But the moment you shine the light of awareness on that thought, you separate yourself from it. You begin to see, wait, that's not me, that's just a pattern, that's just a mental habit. Awareness is like switching on a light in a dark room. Without it, you're stumbling, tripping, and hurting yourself. With it, you suddenly see the obstacles, the path, the opportunities. When you become aware of the negative narrative in your mind, you take away its power to control you. The thought doesn't disappear instantly, but your relationship with it changes. You no longer identify with it, you observe it. You no longer get trapped in it, you choose how to respond. This choice is where real power begins. Now, let's dig deeper. Negative thoughts don't just appear randomly. They are conditioned by your past experiences, your environment, and the meaning you've attached to events in your life. Maybe you failed once and your brain decided, "I'm a failure." Maybe someone criticized you and your brain recorded, "I'm not worthy." Without awareness, you repeat this tape over and over, and it becomes your truth. But the moment you become conscious of that mental loop, you disrupt the cycle. You realize it's not truth, it's just a story, and stories can be rewritten. Awareness also creates a gap, a pause between stimulus and response. Imagine someone says something harsh to you. If you're unaware, you react emotionally, maybe with anger or hurt, and then regret it later. But when you're aware, you catch yourself in that microsecond. I feel triggered, my heart is racing, my mind wants to fight back. And in that gap, you get to choose a better response. Instead of feeding the negativity, you redirect your energy. That's control, not control over others or over circumstances, but control over yourself. And that's the only control that truly matters. Awareness can be trained like a muscle. Every time you pause to observe your thoughts instead of automatically reacting, you strengthen that muscle. Simple practices help. Journaling at the end of the day lets you reflect. What thoughts kept showing up today? Did they empower me or disempower me? Meditation allows you to notice thoughts as clouds passing by, teaching you not to get stuck in them. Even something as basic as checking in with your body, "Am I tense? Am I breathing shallow?" brings you back to awareness. The beautiful part is that awareness doesn't just stop negativity, it reveals positivity. When you are awake to your thought patterns, you also start noticing the moments of joy you used to overlook. That smile from a stranger, the way sunlight hits the trees, the sound of laughter in the background. All these tiny gifts of life become visible once you're no longer drowning in unconscious negativity. Awareness doesn't just eliminate darkness, it amplifies light. Some people wait for life to force awareness upon them. A crisis hits, a loss shakes them, and suddenly they wake up to how much negativity they've been living in. But you don't need to wait for pain to force you awake. You can choose it now. You can decide today to live with open eyes, to pay attention to what's happening inside your mind, to take ownership of the thoughts you allow to grow. That decision separates those who live in reaction from those who live with intention. Awareness is also the starting point for every other change you want in life. Want to be more confident? First, be aware of the thoughts that destroy your confidence. Want to be happier? First, be aware of the moments when your brain is choosing misery instead of gratitude. Awareness is the switch that turns on the possibility of transformation. And here's the truth: your mind will never stop producing thoughts. You can't eliminate them all, and you don't need to. The goal is not to have zero negative thoughts, but to never let them run your life unconsciously. With awareness, a thought comes in, you recognize it, you decide whether it serves you, and if it doesn't, you let it go. Just like standing at the doorway of your mind and saying, you can come in, but you stay out. So, awareness creates control. Control over your focus, control over your emotions, control over the story you live by. And when you own that control, you free yourself from the prison of unconscious negativity. You realize that happiness, peace, and fulfillment were never somewhere out there. They were always within your reach, waiting for you to simply wake up and notice. Shift your focus, because where focus goes, energy flows. This is not just a nice phrase, it is the reality of human psychology and behavior. Every emotion you feel, every decision you make, every outcome you create is shaped by what you choose to focus on in any given moment. If you focus on what's missing, you will feel empty. If you focus on what's wrong, you will feel hopeless. But if you focus on what's possible, you will feel inspired. If you focus on what you already have, you will feel grateful. Your focus determines your state of mind, and your state of mind determines the quality of your life. Think about two people in the same situation. One sees obstacles, the other sees opportunities. One sees problems, the other sees possibilities. The difference isn't in the situation, it's in the focus. For example, someone loses their job. One person thinks, I'm worthless. Life is unfair. I'll never recover. They focus on loss, and so they feel despair. Another person thinks, this is my chance to grow, to start fresh, to do something I've always wanted. They focus on opportunity, and so they feel empowered. Same event, completely different experiences, all because of focus. Your brain is like a search engine. If you type in what's wrong with me, it will pull up an endless list of reasons to make you feel bad. If you type in what's great about my life, your brain will find answers too. The quality of your questions directs the quality of your focus. Ask, what can I be grateful for right now? What's the lesson in this challenge? How can I use this? Those questions direct your focus to growth, gratitude, and strength. The truth is, negative thoughts will always try to get your attention because the brain is wired for survival. It looks for danger, for problems, for what might go wrong. That was useful thousands of years ago when threats were everywhere, but today, if you let that default setting run your life, you'll constantly focus on what's wrong instead of what's right. You can't change the fact that your brain looks for problems, but you can train yourself to redirect focus toward what empowers you. One practical way to shift your focus is through gratitude. Gratitude is the ultimate antidote to negativity. You cannot feel fear and gratitude at the same time, or anger and gratitude at the same time. The moment you truly feel grateful, you shift your entire state of being. Begin each day by focusing on 3 things you are thankful for, big or small. Maybe it's your family, maybe it's the fact that you woke up this morning, maybe it's the opportunities ahead of you. By doing this consistently, you train your brain to search for what's good instead of what's missing. Another way to master focus is visualization. Athletes do this before every competition. They don't just practice physically, they practice mentally. They see themselves winning, executing, succeeding. You can do the same in your life. Instead of focusing on fear of failure, visualize yourself achieving, thriving, and overcoming. Your mind cannot tell the difference between something vividly imagined and something real, and that kind of focus builds confidence and momentum. Remember, your focus is your choice. You cannot always control what happens around you, but you can always control what you choose to focus on. If you keep looking at the storm, you'll feel overwhelmed. But if you keep your eyes on the horizon, you'll remember that the storm is temporary and brighter skies are coming. When you train yourself to shift focus from problems to solutions, from fear to faith, from scarcity to abundance, your life begins to transform, not because circumstances change instantly, but because you show up differently. Now, understand this. Shifting focus is not about ignoring reality or pretending that problems don't exist. It's about choosing to put your energy into what serves you rather than what drains you. If there's a challenge, acknowledge it, but then focus on action. If there's pain, accept it, but then focus on the lesson. This mindset doesn't just eliminate negativity, it creates resilience because you're no longer controlled by what happens, you're controlled by where you place your focus. And here is the most powerful truth. Happiness is not the result of everything going your way. Happiness is a decision you make every single day by focusing on what matters most. Happiness is a choice, not a condition. You've met people who seem to have everything, money, success, recognition, but they're miserable because they focus on what they lack, and you've met people with very little, yet they radiate joy because they focus on what they have. It's never about circumstances, it's always about perspective. Real happiness doesn't wait for a perfect moment. It's created in the imperfect moments by shifting focus to the beauty that's already there. The way you find joy in any situation is by asking, what can I appreciate right now? What meaning can I give this? How can this help me grow? When you make that shift, happiness is no longer fragile. It's not something the outside world can take away because it lives inside you. So the key is simple but powerful. Direct your focus toward gratitude, growth, and possibilities, and you will find happiness not someday, but in this very moment. You don't need to wait for life to be perfect. You need to decide to focus on the parts of life that already are. Change your state, change your mind. This is one of the most powerful truths you can ever apply to your life. Most people believe their emotions come only from their thoughts, but in reality, your body and your physiology have just as much influence. Think about the last time you felt completely unmotivated. Your body probably reflected its slouched posture, shallow breathing, low energy. Now think about the times you felt unstoppable. Your chest was lifted, your breathing was deeper, your gestures were stronger. Your body sends signals to your brain, and your brain responds with emotions to match. If you learn how to master your state through movement, breath, and physiology, you can instantly shift your emotions regardless of what's happening around you. Your state is the foundation of your psychology. Imagine someone trying to feel confident while standing with their shoulders hunched forward, head down, and shallow breath. It's nearly impossible because that physiology triggers emotions of weakness and insecurity. But the moment you change your posture, stand tall, shoulders back, take a deep, powerful breath, your brain receives new signals. Confidence is not something you wait to feel. It's something you generate by shifting your state. One of the simplest ways to change your state is through breathing. Most people breathe shallow, especially when stressed, which triggers the body's fight or flight response. That shallow breath tells the brain, I'm under threat. But when you slow down, take deep, controlled breaths, you activate calm and clarity. Breath is your anchor. In any negative situation, if you pause and take even 2 minutes to breathe deeply, you are telling your mind and body to reset. Movement is another powerful trigger. If you feel stuck, stagnant, or anxious, start moving your body. Exercise, stretch, jump, dance, even just a brisk walk. Movement changes your blood flow, releases endorphins, and shifts your chemistry. That's why people who exercise regularly often feel more positive and resilient. You don't need hours in the gym, you just need to move in ways that break the pattern of stagnation. When your body changes, your emotions follow. Energy rituals are also important. Have you ever seen athletes before a big game? They don't sit still and overthink. They pump themselves up, shout, clap, bounce, get their bodies into a peak state. They know if their body is in the right state, their mind will follow. You can do the same every morning. Instead of waking up and scrolling on your phone, stand up, stretch, breathe deeply, put on music that inspires you, move with intensity for a few minutes. By creating energy in your body, you prime your mind for a powerful day. Changing your state is not about ignoring problems, it's about approaching them from a stronger position. Imagine walking into a challenge with a tired, defeated state versus walking in with energy, clarity, and power. The problem may be the same, but the results will be completely different because your state determines how resourceful, creative, and resilient you are in the moment. Reframing also connects deeply to state change. When you shift your body and your breathing, it becomes easier to reframe a situation mentally. For example, let's say you fail at something. If you stay slouched and motionless, your brain interprets the failure as final. But if you stand tall, breathe strong, and put yourself into an empowered state, your mind starts asking, what can I learn from this? How can I use this? The same event becomes an opportunity simply because you changed the way you showed up physically and mentally. This is why leaders, athletes, and high performers put so much emphasis on state. They know life is unpredictable. They know negativity and challenges will come. But instead of letting emotions dictate their actions, they train themselves to shift state on demand. And the truth is, you have that same ability. You don't have to wait for motivation to show up. You can create it by changing your state right now. Remember this, motion creates emotion. Your body and your mind are deeply connected, and when you move your body with intention, your emotions follow. The fastest way to eliminate negativity is not to sit and think about it, but to stand up, breathe, move, and shift into a state that empowers you. When you change your state, you don't just change how you feel, you change the way you think, the decisions you make, and the actions you take. So in any moment of doubt, fear, or negativity, don't just fight with your thoughts. Instead, command your body, take control of your breath, move with power, stand like someone who is already confident, already capable, already victorious. Because when you change your state, you change your mind, and when you change your mind, you change your life. Reframe challenges as opportunities because the way you interpret what happens to you determines how you experience life. Every single person faces obstacles, setbacks, and pain. The difference between those who rise and those who remain stuck is not the size of the challenge but the meaning they attach to it. When something difficult happens, you can either decide, this is the end of me, or you can decide, this is the making of me. That choice in meaning transforms suffering into strength and turns adversity into a stepping stone for growth. Think about the stories of people who inspire you most. They are not people who lived easy lives without struggle. They are people who went through trials, losses, failures, and hardships, but they reframed those experiences into fuel. A setback in business became the push to innovate. A personal loss became the spark to live with more compassion. A rejection became the reason to build resilience. The challenge did not shrink them, it shaped them. The same can be true for you, but it requires the conscious decision to change your perspective. The mind has a natural tendency to label challenges as negative. If something doesn't go your way, the first reaction might be, this is unfair, why me? That reaction drains your energy and blinds you to hidden opportunities. But when you train yourself to ask better questions, you begin to see possibilities. Instead of why is this happening to me, you can ask, how is this happening for me? What can I learn here? What can I do with this? The questions you ask dictate the meaning you assign, and meaning shapes destiny. Reframing does not mean denying pain or pretending everything is easy. Pain is real, disappointment is real, but reframing is about choosing what that pain will mean to your life story. Will it mean you are broken, or will it mean you are being built? Will it mean life is against you, or will it mean life is preparing you for something greater? Two people can experience the same hardship and come out completely different, one bitter, the other stronger, because of the frame they chose to view the experience through. Let's take failure as an example. Most people fear it, avoid it, or see it as a sign of inadequacy, but failure is simply feedback. It is information telling you what doesn't work, pushing you to find what does. Every great invention, every successful business, every personal breakthrough is built on a pile of failures that were reframed as lessons. If you reframe failure from the end to a step in the process, it loses its power to paralyze you. Challenges also reveal strengths you didn't know you had. A person may not realize their resilience until life tests them. A leader may not discover their creativity until a crisis forces them to innovate. Without the challenge, those qualities would remain hidden. In this way, challenges are not obstacles to growth. They are the very conditions that create growth. Reframing allows you to see that every struggle is secretly a training ground, preparing you for greater capacity. Think about nature. Diamonds are formed under pressure. Steel is forged in fire. Trees grow stronger against the wind. Life works the same way for us. The pressures, fires, and resistance we face are not punishments. They are the forces that shape us into something greater. When you reframe challenges through that lens, you stop resenting them and start respecting them. You realize that what feels heavy today may be the very thing that strengthens you for tomorrow. Another key to reframing is shifting from a short-term view to a long-term perspective. In the moment, challenges feel overwhelming, but years later, many people look back and say, "That was the best thing that ever happened to me," because they see how it redirected their path, taught them lessons, or gave them strength. The challenge didn't feel like a gift at the time, but with perspective it became one. You don't have to wait years to get that perspective. You can choose to adopt it now by asking, how might this shape me in ways I can't yet see? When you consistently reframe challenges, you build a habit of resilience. Instead of dreading the next difficulty, you approach it with curiosity and strength. You know it may not be pleasant, but you also know it carries the seed of growth. This mindset doesn't eliminate pain, but it prevents pain from defeating you. It transforms life's hardships into teachers, and every teacher leaves you wiser, stronger, and more capable. So the next time you face a challenge, pause before labeling it as negative. Ask yourself, what else could this mean? How can I use this? What is this trying to teach me? That single shift in perspective could turn your biggest obstacle into your greatest opportunity. When you master the art of reframing, you stop being a victim of circumstances and become the author of your story. And your story will no longer be one of defeat, but one of strength, growth, and unstoppable progress. Practice daily mental conditioning because just like your body, your mind becomes stronger or weaker based on what you feed it and how consistently you train it. You would never expect to go to the gym once, lift a few weights, and suddenly stay fit for life. Fitness requires consistency, repetition, and deliberate effort. The same is true for your mind, yet so many people expect to feel confident, positive, and focused without ever exercising their mental muscles. They drift through life hoping their emotions will align on their own, but without conditioning, the mind defaults to fear, doubt, and negativity. If you want to live with clarity, confidence, and happiness, you must train your mind every single day. Mental conditioning begins with awareness of what you're consuming. Your mind is constantly taking in information, conversations, news, social media, your own self-talk. Each piece of input shapes your outlook. If you flood your brain with negativity, gossip, and fear, you can't expect positivity to flourish. It's like planting weeds and expecting flowers. To condition your mind for strength, you must feed it empowering ideas, uplifting voices, and meaningful content that expands your vision of what's possible. Just as you watch what you eat for your physical health, you must watch what you feed your mind for your mental health. Another powerful practice is affirmation. Affirmations are not empty words, they are statements that help rewire your brain. The mind naturally repeats limiting beliefs. I can't do this. I'm not good enough. Things never work for me. But when you consciously replace those phrases with empowering ones, I am capable, I am growing, I always find a way, you begin to shift the story you live by. At first, it may feel unnatural, but with repetition, your subconscious begins to accept these new beliefs, and your actions align with them. The words you speak to yourself daily shape your identity, and your identity determines your destiny. Visualization is another form of conditioning that programs your brain for success. Athletes use it before stepping onto the field. Leaders use it before critical meetings. You can use it for your own goals, big or small. Take a few minutes each day to picture yourself succeeding. See the details, feel the emotions, imagine the steps. Your brain does not fully distinguish between imagined experiences and real ones, which means visualizing success primes your nervous system to act in alignment with that vision. The more vividly you see it, the more naturally you step into it. Gratitude is perhaps the most transformative daily practice for conditioning your mind. Negativity thrives when you focus on what's missing, but gratitude redirects your focus to what's already abundant. By starting each day with a moment of gratitude, listing 3 things you appreciate, you train your brain to search for the positive. Gratitude doesn't eliminate challenges, but it shifts your perspective so you face them from a place of strength instead of scarcity. It's a muscle that grows stronger the more you use it, and over time it changes your emotional default setting from stress to joy. Consistency is the secret to making these practices work. Doing affirmations once, visualizing once, or practicing gratitude once won't rewire your brain. Just like exercise, the benefits come from repetition. Even 5 minutes a day compounds into extraordinary results when practiced consistently. The person who spends a few intentional minutes each morning conditioning their mind will feel the difference weeks, months, and years later compared to someone who neglects it. Mental conditioning is not about perfection, it's about progress, about building a resilient foundation day by day. It's also important to create rituals around your conditioning. Habits stick best when they are tied to a routine. Maybe you practice affirmations while brushing your teeth, visualize while sipping your morning coffee, or write down your gratitude before bed. Linking mental conditioning to daily activities ensures it becomes part of your life rather than something you do only when you feel like it. Discipline creates freedom, and rituals create discipline. And when life gets tough, and it always will, mental conditioning becomes your shield. Without it, setbacks feel crushing. With it, setbacks become manageable because your mind is already trained to reframe, to focus on growth, to believe in solutions. You don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your conditioning. That's why the strongest people you know aren't just lucky. They've trained their minds to stay strong regardless of circumstances. So, make no mistake, mental conditioning is not optional if you want to eliminate negativity and create lasting happiness. It's not something to try once in a while, it's a lifestyle. Feed your mind with empowering input, speak words of belief, visualize your success, practice gratitude, and repeat it daily. Over time, your thoughts will shift, your emotions will elevate, and your identity will transform. Your life will no longer be at the mercy of circumstances because your mind will be trained to create meaning, joy, and strength in any situation. Happiness is a choice, not a condition. So many people spend their lives chasing it as if it's something outside of themselves, waiting for the perfect job, the perfect partner, the perfect amount of money, or the perfect circumstances before they allow themselves to feel joy. They convince themselves that once everything lines up, then they'll finally be happy. But life doesn't work that way. Circumstances are always changing. Conditions are never perfect. If you tie your happiness to things outside your control, you will forever be waiting for a moment that may never come. Real happiness begins the moment you take ownership of it as a choice you make daily, independent of conditions. This doesn't mean ignoring reality or denying difficulties. Life brings pain, challenges, and uncertainty, and pretending otherwise doesn't serve you. But within every moment, you still have the power to choose how you respond. 2 people can go through the exact same situation. One sees despair, the other finds meaning. One chooses bitterness, the other chooses gratitude. Their circumstances are identical, but their experiences are worlds apart, because happiness isn't dictated by what happens, but by the meaning assigned to what happens. Think about how often people say, I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I get promoted. I'll be happy when I'm in a relationship. I'll be happy when I have more money, more success, more recognition. But the problem is, once they achieve that milestone, the bar moves again. They achieve the promotion, and now happiness depends on the next one. They get into the relationship, and now happiness depends on how perfect it is. They earn more money, but now happiness depends on having even more. It becomes a never-ending cycle of chasing something that's always just out of reach. The truth is, happiness cannot be postponed to the future. If you can't choose happiness now, you won't suddenly find it later, no matter what you achieve. Happiness is built from perspective. If you choose to see what's missing, you'll always feel lack. If you choose to see what's present, you'll feel abundance. Gratitude is the bridge that turns this principle into practice. When you deliberately focus on even the smallest blessings, your health, your breath, the people who love you, the opportunities ahead, you remind yourself that joy isn't waiting somewhere down the road, it's already here. Gratitude doesn't erase problems, but it shifts your focus so you can experience happiness alongside them. Another aspect of choosing happiness is living with meaning. People often confuse pleasure with happiness. Pleasure is fleeting, dependent on external experiences, and fades quickly. Happiness, on the other hand, comes from aligning your life with your values and living with purpose. You might face struggle in the pursuit of that purpose, but even in the struggle, there is fulfillment. For example, raising children is not always easy, but parents often find deep joy in the process because it is tied to meaning. The same is true for building something that matters, serving others, or growing as a person. Meaning sustains happiness when conditions fluctuate. Your internal dialogue also plays a major role in this choice. If your inner voice constantly criticizes and doubts you, happiness will always feel out of reach. But if you choose to speak to yourself with compassion, encouragement, and belief, happiness becomes a natural extension of that inner support. You can't expect joy to flow if your mind is filled with self-sabotage. Choosing happiness means choosing to manage the story you tell yourself each day. It's important to understand that happiness is not about pretending to feel good all the time. You will experience sadness, frustration, and anger because you're human. Choosing happiness doesn't mean suppressing those emotions. It means not letting them control your entire life. It means allowing yourself to feel them, process them, and then returning to a state of gratitude, peace, and perspective. It's about bouncing back rather than staying stuck. Consider those who have very little in terms of material possessions yet radiate joy, and then consider those who seem to have everything yet live in constant dissatisfaction. The difference is not wealth, status, or conditions, it's perspective. One group chooses to see life as a gift, the other chooses to see it as never enough. The happiest people are not the ones with perfect conditions, but the ones who have mastered the art of finding joy in imperfect conditions. Happiness is also contagious. When you choose it, you affect the people around you. Your energy, your outlook, and your state of mind influence your family, friends, and colleagues. By choosing happiness, you give permission for others to do the same. You become a source of light in environments where negativity might otherwise dominate. This ripple effect can transform relationships, workplaces, and even communities. So, the decision is yours every single day. You can wait for conditions to align, or you can align your perspective regardless of conditions. You can keep chasing happiness as if it's a prize at the end of a race, or you can realize that it's a state you can access right now, in this very moment, by choosing to see what's good, to find meaning in what's hard, and to live with gratitude for what is. The power has always been in your hands. Happiness is not someday, it's now. It's not outside, it's inside. And the moment you decide to choose it, your entire life changes.